Hello, everyone. Good to be here with you and to have this opportunity to chat with you about Seabourn. Now, I've been with the company since May of 19, but just a little history on myself. I actually was with the original Seabourn brand back in the 90s, so I'm very familiar with the product, what it was back in the 90s. Some of you may remember that we had the Pride, the Spirit, and the Legend. To what it is now with our larger ships, including the Expedition. So during this presentation, we'll talk about Seabourn, we'll talk about the ships, what's included. We'll also talk about our expedition, some itineraries, and some current promotions that are going on right now. So let's get started. So first and foremost, I want to introduce you to our Seabourn fleet. So it starts off with the Seabourn Odyssey, which was built in 2009, followed by her sister ship, the Sojourn and the Quest. These ships are identical. They are a 458 guest capacity ship. So it is still quite small when you consider the other ships that are out there. They're also, as I mentioned, identical, which means once you've been on one of them, you've been on all of them. And one thing that our guests love about that is they feel like they're coming back home because they know exactly where their preferred bar is. They know exactly where to get to the pools. They know all the public rooms, so it's just much easier to come on a product like Seabourn that the ships are identical. It makes it easier and it makes it much more comfortable. So this is the first of our new fleet. We call these the Odyssey class. I should also mention that the Seabourn Odyssey is actually leaving the fleet. So she was our first ship on the new class, and she is leaving in September. So if you've been on the Odyssey before, if you wanted to do a final farewell on her, there is a voyage that sails from Alaska to Japan in September, which will be her final voyage. Make sure that you are talking to your cruise.com advisor so you can find out exactly the details of that voyage. So as we move on, the company got a little larger and we built ships that were a bit bigger than the Odyssey class. This is the Encore class with a 600 guest capacity. So these are 300 suites, 600 guest capacity. This is all balconies. Now, I should mention that the Odyssey class is 90% balcony with a couple of window suites towards the forward part of the ship, but the Encore and the Ovation are 100% verandas through the entire ship. Now, the Encore and the Ovation are identical to each other, just some artwork that changes, but they are very similar in the layout to the Odyssey class. So if you did go on the Odyssey class and wanted to go on the Encore class, you'd recognize the ship immediately because the layout is identical. The suites are typically forward and midship. There's a great separation between the public rooms and the suites. So you're never going to find a suite on Seabourn that is too close to the piano bar or too close to the casino. There's a clear separation between that part of the ship, so you don't encounter any additional noise. Also, the Encore and the Ovation, being that they're bigger, the public rooms are larger. So some of the restaurants are larger. They also include another restaurant that we'll talk about. It's a sushi restaurant. And the Encore and the Ovation also feature an area called the Retreat. And the Retreat is right up on the top deck. And the Retreat has 16 bungalows that you can actually rent for the day or for the week or for the time that you're on board Seabourn. And in those bungalows, you have two kind of like I would say they're like twin size beds, but not really beds. They're actually for sunning. It's enclosed. There's a television. There's a headset as well that you can connect to, and there's a jacuzzi in the center. And it also gets service for lunch. It also has service for drinks. So if you wanted to just be up there and have your lunch served, or if you wanted to have drinks up there, you could do that up in the retreat area. And then most recently, we built our expedition ships. Now, some of you may or may not be familiar with expedition, but it really is the new level of travel. It is visiting small ports that you cannot get to typically, even with our size vessels, they're remote destinations. And these ships were also built for extreme weather. For example, Antarctica, the Arctic, visiting the polar bears, Greenland, the Kimberley, and we'll talk a bit about her itineraries. But our venture was built in 2022, and the sister ship, the Pursuit, was built in 2023. And these are identical vessels, 264 guests. So if you like small ship cruising, that is the option for you. Now, Seabourn is an ultra luxury ocean and expedition product. And really, what sets Seabourn apart from the other lines, I believe, is the crew on board. It's the service that we offer. Our crew members, even back in the 80s when the company started, were known for intuitive service. They know your name, they know your preferred drink. If you have any type of dietary restrictions, we're able to accommodate them. They're also authentic. And what I mean by that is, yes, they offer you a great service, but they're also very engaging as well. I have the opportunity to attend many events where there are past guests, and I can't tell you how many of them take out their phones, show me a crew member that's on their phone or who they have on Facebook or on Instagram, and ask me, do you know when this person is going to be on the next voyage? Because we want to sail with them, whether it's the hotel manager, whether it is some of our staff that do our shows. I mean, it really is amazing how our crew connect with the guest. We're also known for something called Seabourn Moments, and these are what we call meaningful connections, and they can either happen with fellow travelers, but they usually are done by our crew members. And this is something that just surprises the client that's unexpected. So I mentioned this story in the past. I had the opportunity to sail on one of our ships last March, and I was attending the caviar and beach splash party that we offer. Coming back to my suite, I noticed that my bathtub, my bath was drawn. There were rose petals on the floor, and I had sailed by myself, so I wasn't quite sure who had gone in there and gone through all that work for me specifically, but I found out that it was actually the suite hostess and the suite stewardess who knew that I was going to return from the beach party to have a spa appointment. And they wanted to make sure that when I came back, there was a bath that was drawn for me. So I didn't request that. It was something that they did on their own. And it's something that really stands out. And just like that and other little small touches, I think is what stands out and what makes people remember their Seabourn experience. We mentioned these are all oceanfront suites. All the vast majority are balconies, as I mentioned, a couple of windows. We use very high-end amenities that you'll see when I show you pictures of the actual suite. And the product, when it was originally in the 80s and 90s, was called the Yachts of Seabourn. And that was because even though they were much larger than a traditional yacht, they did offer that yacht feel. It was very personable. It was really the first small ultra luxury cruise line in the industry. And we've extended that feeling into the larger ships. And for example, we do not have a front desk where you typically would go in a hotel or on a traditional cruise ship where you're standing in line. We don't have that. We have an area called the Seabourn Square, and that is where you'll find our crew members. That is where you'll find our coffee bar, a library, access to the boutiques. You'll also find computers there that can be used. We like to call it the living room of the ship. So it really does lend itself to that yacht club, country club feel. And then, of course, on Seabourn, virtually everything is included on our ocean sailing ships, and on our expedition ships, expeditions, the excursions and the landings are included. And again, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what is the Seabourn all-inclusive difference? That is not having to take out your card during the course of the voyage and have to sign for anything because it is all included. So that means that gratuities for the crew are included, and it's not expected nor is it required for you to tip anyone on board our ships. Our premium fine spirits and wines are included, as well as champagne and caviar. Yes, caviar is included on all of our voyages on demand. So if you'd like to have it for breakfast, if you'd like to have it for lunch or dinner or all in between, not a problem. Just contact us and we'll be able to deliver it to your suite. We also include Wi-Fi, which is powered by Starlink. We have all of our dining venues on board our ships are included as well. And even on our ocean sailing ships, although the excursions are not included, there are a couple of experiences that we do include that we'll talk about. So these are what we call our signature events and experiences on our large ocean sailing vessels. So this is includes the caviar and the surf that I mentioned earlier. So this is something that Seabourn started in the 80s. And it's a great party atmosphere. The ship pulls up typically in the Caribbean or some ports in Asia, but the ship will pull in early in the morning around 10 o'clock. The guests will disembark. It's always a private beach area, so you'll have a nice quiet area for you to enjoy the beach. They'll be serving, of course, cocktails and drinks and champagne. And around 11:30, 11:45, the surfboard comes out and we open a tin of caviar and serve champagne and caviar right there at the water's edge. And we encourage the guests to come in. It's a great time. There's a lot of pictures on social media of this event. It's become so popular that we've now included this on all of our voyages. So whenever we cannot do it in the actual ocean, we will do it on our pool deck. So in voyages in the Mediterranean, voyages to Australia, New Zealand, voyages to South America, all those will include a caviar in the surf, but on the pool deck area. We even included on our cold expedition products. So if you're up in Alaska or Antarctica or the Arctic or Greenland or Iceland, we will have our caviar on ice party, which is very, very similar to the caviar on surf, just obviously not jumping into the pool because it will be probably a little bit too cold for that. Another thing that we include on our signature event and experiences is an evening in Ephesus. And Ephesus is a UNESCO heritage site that's located in Kusadasi in Turkey. So if you plan a trip that includes Kusadasi in Turkey, we will have an evening in Ephesus where in the early evening, all of the guests will disembark. As you see here, we'll be waiting for you with wine and cocktails, some canapes. There is the Aegean band will be playing in the backdrop, and you'll be able to spend the evening here in Ephesus, which again is just a beautiful UNESCO heritage site. If you don't know too much about it, I encourage you to look it up because it really is beautiful and it's one of the highlights of those itineraries. And then lastly, our ships, again, the larger vessels, have a marina in the back that you see there on the right-hand side. So the marina doesn't come down as much as I'd like it to come down because the ships are a little bit larger than the original Seabourn ships. However, it's at the captain's discretion. So when we are in warm weather and the captain feels that we can bring the marina down for a few hours of water toys, the captain will make the announcement. The marina will come down. We have stand-up paddle boats. We have kayaks. We have the banana there that you see with the Zodiac that pulls it around. It's just kind of a fun experience that we're able to do pretty much in open ocean, close to port, of course, or close to the to land. But it's just something pretty unique that we've done. I've been a part of it a few times in the Caribbean. We'll do it in Jos Van Dyke, or we will do it in kind of one of those small sheltered islands where it's not as deep and the ship can actually be very calm and we can actually drop the marina. So, you know, Seabourn is as active as you want it to be. Now let's talk about dining. So dining is very important, really when you're cruising, and especially for us at Seabourn. So all of our ships have a main restaurant that's called the restaurant. So if you're looking for the restaurant, you can't get lost. The restaurant is a fantastic place where on the large ocean sailing ships are typically open just for dinner. It is open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner on our small expedition ships because there are less venues on those. Our sushi restaurant is available only on the Encore and the Ovation, and it seats about 50 guests. It's been so popular that we have now integrated sushi into all of our entire fleet. So although we don't have a specialty sushi restaurant on the smaller ships, we do offer sushi at the club. So right around 6 p.m., you go down to the club, sushi's waiting for you. You can have it as an appetizer or you can have it as dinner, whatever you choose to do. But it's become very, very popular. Then Earth and Ocean is a dining venue that's out by the pool deck. It's open in the evening. This is again a great menu. If you've been on Seabourn, there's a good chance that you may not even have recognized or realized that this restaurant is available, because I think we don't do a great job at promoting it, but it's one of my favorite on board the ships because you're outside and the menu is just so different versus the restaurant menu or anything else that we have on the ship. The Colonnade is our indoor-outdoor restaurant, and this is also on all of our ships. So this typically serves breakfast and lunch. Breakfast and lunch is served French, European bistro style, so like a buffet, you could say, but it also has an a la carte menu. And then for dinner at nighttime, it is just a menu option. So there is no buffet in the evening. We only do that in the morning and in the afternoon. And then finally, on our larger ocean sailing vessels, on the Odyssey and on the Encore class, we have our new restaurant, which is called Solis. And Solis is a Mediterranean-inspired restaurant that we integrated into all of our larger vessels, and it's been so well received. We had it added during our world cruise on one of our voyages, which have some of the most discerning guests that we work with, and they've come back and they actually love this. So it's Mediterranean fine dining. On the Encore and the Ovation, we also have an area out in the back that we just opened as well. So on those larger Encore and Ovation ships, you have up to 3 dining venues that are outside. Again, you're on a ship, you want to be out as much as possible depending on weather. Now, of course, we have been in the business for quite some time, so we have won so many awards for best small ship, best luxury ship, best boutique, you name it, we've won it. But really what we care about the most is what our guests think, and our guests love Seabourn. They love to return to Seabourn. If you've been on Seabourn, you know this. If you have friends who've been on Seabourn, you also can ask them what their favorite cruise line is, and it's typically Seabourn because it is just a fantastic product that delivers. So Travel Weekly earlier this year, which is one of our industry magazines, named Seabourn Best Cruise Line for Antarctica. And this was voted by our travel advisors. So of course our guests, but our travel advisors who are very discerning, who are also judging us versus the other lines that they're going on. So we were very happy to have this special award that was given to us, because it was not just given to us by our guests, but also by our peers in the travel industry. So you may be wondering what our suites look like. So I mentioned earlier that the vast majority of the suites on our ocean sailing vessels are verandas, and this is typically what they all look like. So they're about 300 square feet plus a balcony. As you see there, you have the bedroom area. There's a separation between the bed and the sitting area. All of our suites also have a refrigerator, a small refrigerator in there where we will stock it with your preferred beer, soda, juices. You also have the option to request 2 bottles of your favorite spirits. So you can have 1 vodka, 1 rum, and you can serve it. You can have it in your suite to serve it yourself whenever you feel like having it. Of course, when you embark, there's a bottle of champagne that's waiting for you. What I really love the most about the room are the bathrooms. Now, how many times have you been on an ocean, on a cruise ship and gone to the bathroom and said, this bathroom is way too small? It's happened to me many times. At Seabourn, again, this is our standard bathroom. It has double sinks, a separate tub and shower, and we use molten brown amenities. So it's fantastic. It really is beautiful, and it's appropriate. I should also mention that all of our suites have walk-in closets. So keep that in mind as well. If you need more space, not a problem. We have the penthouse suites on the bottom right-hand side, and those are about 460 square feet, and that has a separation between the bedroom and the sitting area. And then we have the suites. So the suites would be the owner's suites, the signature suite, or the winter garden, which is the largest, and they go as high as 1,000 square feet. And these are more of an apartment style layout, as you can kind of see there. So when you walk into these suites, you have a half bath for company. There is a sofa sitting area. They all have wet bars. They have dining room tables. And the great thing about these suites are if you come with your friends and family or in a group, Or if you make friends during the course of the voyage and you like to host a small cocktail party, we will send a waiter up here to serve cocktails and canapes before dinner. So these suites are large enough to be able to offer that opportunity. We also have a personal suite hostess and attendants that will greet you. And this is in every category from window all the way to the winter garden. So you have two, a hostess and an attendant that will greet you when you board the vessel. They will be able to do any type of service that you request them to do. They'll replenish your ice. They'll draw your bath. If you want to have a snack every day at 2:30 of some chips or whatever it is that you like, you let them know, and they will be your go-to team that will be working with you during the course of your cruise on board. So we don't have butlers on board Seabourn, and if you think about a yacht, typically yachts don't have butlers either. They have a great crew on board that's very personable, and that's what we have on Seabourn. So we have a suite host and an attendant to take care of all of our suites. You may be wondering, where does Seabourn go? Because now you're very interested in Seabourn. Now you want to jump on one of our experiences, but you want to know, where will the ships take you? So the ships actually visit all seven continents. So we're not just restricted to Caribbean and Australia, and Alaska and Europe. We go everywhere. It's very seasonal. So right now we have a ship up in the Arctic going to Svalbard for the polar bears, as well as Greenland. We have another ship over in Alaska. We have a ship in Europe. We have multiple ships in Europe because Europe is probably our biggest destination during the summertime. And then when the seasons change, the ships transition as well, and we visit the Caribbean, Panama Canal, Antarctica. We also do India, Asia, Australia, New Zealand. You name it, our seaborne ships will take you there. So I'm just going to go through just a quick review of some of the destinations and some of the itineraries, because I want to show you what it is to be on a small ship. I don't know how many of you have been on a ship the size of Seabourn, but the biggest advantage, aside from the food and the service, is really the ports of call. So some people tend to not think about, well, I'm just going to go to Italy, and on a big ship you can do, 5 countries and 8 or 9 days, but many times, you're going to some nice ports, but you're going to big ports where you have to jump on a transfer or jump on a bus to take you to where it is that you want to go. On Seabourn, we're so small that we actually anchor right off of most of these ports. So in Portofino, we anchor off of Portofino. You take the tender right in. Porto Veneti for Cinque Terre, we anchor right in Porto Veneti, and you are able to go into Cinque Terre. Amalfi. So instead of going to Sorrento and taking the bus down to Amalfi, we will anchor off the coast of Amalfi. So that's just an example. Later this year, we will have a ship that goes to Seville and actually sails up the river and docks in the city of Seville. Same thing with Bordeaux. If you love wine, I'll show you in a minute a voyage that actually goes into the river and docks in the city of Bordeaux. Croatia, Greek Isles, to be able to do, yes, Santorini, Mykonos are very nice, but there are hundreds of other smaller islands that the big ships do not have access to that we do. So in many of these ports, it'll just be a seaborne ship there. So can you imagine, instead of getting off in a port where you have 5,000 people getting off and you're fighting for a bus, or you're fighting just through these cities, it's really just Seabourn that is there with your 400 or 600 guests. So believe me, it makes a difference. So this is the beautiful Seabourn Sojourn, kind of a close-up picture. This is the Odyssey class. Just want you to kind of take a quick peek here. This is actually our ship in Alaska. So we do an Alaska trip, and right now it is currently, the Odyssey is in Alaska, but we will be going back again next year. We typically do 7 days, 10 days, or 14 days. The 7 days are from Juneau to Vancouver, or vice versa, and the 10 and 14 days are Vancouver round trip. Now, you may be saying, there's so many lines that do Alaska, why we want to go on Seabourn. Well, first off, you're on a ship with only 458 guests. So the experience, immediately is very, very different. Secondly, as you can see at some of these pictures, the vast majority on that 7 day for sure, but even on the 10 and 14 day, the ship sails deep in the inside passage because it's small, which basically means that you'll have great views from either side of the ship. One question that you hear a lot when you're doing a big ship is, should I be in the port or the starboard side to see the most? Because if you look at the 10 day, there is a section where you're kind of sailing in that big bay, so you may not be able to see a lot in that channel. But on the other ones, we're inside the inside passage, so you get to see probably much more wildlife than you would when you're actually out farther out in the channel. So think about Seabourn. It's a great experience for Alaska. It's an elevated experience for Alaska. Also want to talk quickly about this trip. So we have a 10-day trip. And this 10-day trip is a round trip Miami. We really don't do Miami very often. It's on November the 1st. There's some limited space here, but if you had an opportunity and you wanted to come down to Miami and actually do this trip, it's 8 days. You know, frankly, for Seabourn, the itinerary is not the most impressive because most of our Caribbean itineraries depart out of Barbados or St. Martin, and they do islands like Bequia, Martinique, Guadeloupe, Ile de Sant, Jos Van Dyke. So they do a very different itinerary, but this one will at least get you the experience of Seabourn and its round trip Miami, so it's a lot easier for you to be able to jump on. Now, if you are a tennis player or if you enjoy watching tennis, I want you to notice these first two voyages on April 5th and April the 13th. These are on the Seabourn Venture, so these are on our small expedition ships. But for this itinerary, it will not be expedition. It will be just a traditional ocean sailing vessel. And we are offering on the 8 day, we're overnighting in Monte Carlo, and we are offering tickets to the Monte Carlo Masters, the quarterfinals. So if you love to watch tennis, you may or may not have been to Monte Carlo to see the Monte Carlo Masters. So you can pair that with a great experience on Seabourn. And on April 13th to the 20th, we're offering tickets to the Barcelona Open. So either one of these trips are great if you enjoy tennis and if you enjoy cruising. The other two itineraries, the ship is actually departing the Mediterranean. So the other voyage would be Barcelona to Lisbon, and that is the sailing that goes up into Seville, as I mentioned. So it sails up the river and docks right in the city. And then the last voyage is the one from Lisbon to Dublin, and that one is the one that goes into Bordeaux. So these are the same ship, the Seabourn Venture, with, again, unique itineraries that you probably won't get on a larger vessel. Now, Japan and Asia has been very popular for us, and next year we will be visiting multiple ports in Japan. We have a couple of 14-day departures in April and October into Japan. We also have voyages that sail out of Hong Kong and Singapore and head up to this part of the world. Make sure that you are talking to your advisor to give you more details on this, because we have them available and there still is space. So just wanted to highlight that quickly. And then we have our world cruise. Anybody want to go on 140 days? 100, this is actually 129. So this is in 2026, and this is 129 days. We're calling it Ring of Fire. The sailing sails out of Los Angeles and eventually finishes in Vancouver. As you see, it goes to Hawaii, South Pacific, Australia, New Zealand, up to the South Pacific, where it goes up to the Philippines, China, and then up to Japan, and then it crosses over to Alaska. So obviously 128 days is quite a bit, but if anyone's ever talked about retiring on board a ship, this is a taste test of that. But you can do segments. So you don't have to do the entire 129 days. You can do segments from LA to Sydney, or LA to Auckland, or Auckland to Bali. There are segments available here on this itinerary. I just wanted to bring it up because we do a world cruise if you're interested in that, and that happens every 2 years. So let's talk about our expedition products. So I mentioned before, we have the Seabourn Venture and the Pursuit, and these are what we call P6 polar class vessels, which means that they are able to navigate in light ice. So these ships can actually lodge themselves into ice because they are icebreakers. And it's actually, we've done this a couple of times at the beginning of the season to Antarctica. They are identical to each other. What changes is some of the artwork, and they're also quite small. They're big on the outside, but it's really a smaller ship compared to our others. It's only 264 guests. We have 30,000 square feet of open deck space, and virtually all of our public rooms, so all of the lounges and even the gym, have an exit door that lead out to the deck. So should you find that the captain says that there are beluga whales breaching on the port side, and you're working out, you can just stop working out and walk right outside to the deck and actually see it. So this is one of the many advantages of these ships. And of course, because we're visiting some very environmentally sensitive areas, the ship is custom built for environmental compliance. So no plastics on board. We have an environmental compliance officer on board all the time. And we're just, another example is we use GPS global positioning of the ship. So we do not use the anchor as to not damage the sea floor. So it is so new and it's so technologically incredible. And again, it's all balconies. So we have no windows or no inside suites on this expedition product. So, a Seabourn expedition is a safari at sea. So if you've ever wanted to do a safari, if you've done a safari, this is a great complement to that because it is a safari at sea. You're visiting very authentic, exhilarating adventures, ports of call, destinations that they really can't get to, as I mentioned, with a flight and a hotel. And you're doing it on board Seabourn, which is really an incredible, uncompromising, sophisticated product and among one of the world's best. So our expedition fleet will also have 24 expedition team members, and they're with you the entire time. And these are experts in their field. They are glaciologist. They are polar bear experts. We have, I mean, you name it. Depending on, they do switch depending on destinations, but they are on the board. They're always escorting all of our groups. So if you're on a Zodiac, you'll have an expedition team member that's explaining to you and telling you kind of what you're seeing, and which really does make a difference in these destinations. We also have double sea kayaks. So you can come back and tell your friends that you were kayaking in Antarctica or you were kayaking in Greenland. I mean, there's just, just some amazing experiences you can have on our ships. And we do also have two 6-person submarines on these expedition vessels that you're able to use as well, depending on destination. Now, there is a charge for the submarine and there is a charge for the kayaks, but everything else of the excursions would be included for the guest, and the same gratuities and food and all that will be included as well. So if you're wondering what the expedition ship suite looks like, so this is very similar to our traditional ocean sailing ship. It's about 355 square feet with balcony, and it's the same virtual layout. You have the bedroom with also the separate sitting area, and the bathroom is quite large as well. If you need more space, we have our penthouse, which again, very similar to the penthouse on our ocean sailing vessels, with a separation between the bedroom and the sitting area. And then we have our newest suite, which is our panorama veranda suite. There are only a few of these on the ship. And what makes this unique, number one, is that the beds face our floated seating windows in the front. So if you can imagine waking up in the morning and having this incredible view. Also, the floor is heated in this suite, and so are the walls. So you can turn the heater on if you're in a warm weather destination, and then kind of just, get up from bed and not have to worry about getting too chilly. And then, of course, there's a balcony here as well. And all of our suites in every category have a heater, a closet heater. And this is, we give all of our guests parkas for the cold weather. And since there are multiple landings during the course of the day, you put your parka in here, you turn it on, and it dries it up, and it makes it nice and warm, and it makes it available to you again when you decide to get back off the ship. And we also offer boots as well for the time that you're on board the ship. So you come down here, you try on boots, and those would be the boots that you'd be wearing for the expedition, and they are waterproof boots. So I'm going to highlight a couple of itineraries. First is our northern itineraries. As I mentioned, the Seabourn Venture right now is doing these destinations up in the Arctic. So these destinations are actually taking you up to Svalbard, to the North Cape, and this is actually where you'll find the polar bears. So this is, again, a great experience, 12 days. We do this typically in the summer. So if you have summer plans, if you don't have summer plans this summer, we still have availability. If not, we'll be back next year. It's usually between July and August. So make sure that you are asking about this itinerary. Again, how unique is this to be able to see the polar bears live? And then we also do Greenland. And Greenland is very unique because you could potentially find some polar bears on the east side of the actual island, I guess is what it is. But on the west side, there's actually a population there as well, an Inuit population. So here, really the biggest advantage is the wildlife is amazing up here in the Arctic, and you can also combine that with the local culture of the people who live here. So just it's a great combination. Now, if you live up north and you're thinking to yourself, well, 30 and 40-degree weather does not sound like a vacation to me, but you are still interested in expedition, we do have multiple voyages to the South Pacific. So after the ship leaves Antarctica, the Seabourn Pursuit, it goes to Santiago, Chile, and it crosses through all these incredible islands in the South Pacific, going all the way up to Guam, and then coming back down and eventually making its way down to the area of the Kimberley in Australia. But all this is warm weather. We're able to drop the submarines here. Some of these voyages also include diving. So if you are an experienced diver, some of these itineraries, we will have a dive master on board. You can come diving here. So, again, think about Seabourn for these unique experiences. And then the Kimberley, this is new for us. We're here for the first time this year. The Kimberley is kind of a very remote destination in Northwest Australia. It is beautiful. It is full of waterfalls, just some incredible rivers that are here. Very difficult to get to unless you're on a cruise. So we're here now in the summer, and we'll be back again next year in the summer. So if you're looking for a true unique itinerary, this is one for you to consider. And then, of course, we also visit the Amazon. And the Amazon, we're visiting later this year in October, where the ship sails into Manaus, deep into the Amazon River. So as we kind of start getting towards the end here, want to update you on Antarctica. So really the prize jewel here is Antarctica, because this is something that has been very popular for us. Guests love this. They really say that it's life-changing. And it's just an incredible experience. And if you've been there and done that around the world and you're looking for a new destination to visit, this is the new hot destination. Really not hot, but just one of the most popular destinations right now that everyone wants to go to. And of course, to experience the penguin and the wildlife, and then to do the polar plunge, which is something that we do up in the Arctic as well as in Antarctica. We do offer 11 and 13-day itineraries. So you would fly to Buenos Aires. You would spend the night on Seabourn in one of our in a hotel, not one of ours, but in one of the hotels that we work with. And then the next morning, there is a private charter flight that will take you to Ushuaia, where the ship will be. And then the ship will set sail through the Drake Passage down to Antarctica. If you do the 11 days, you have about 5 days in the peninsula. If you do the 13 days, you have about 7 days in the peninsula. Let me just go back here for a second. This is, again, one of the most requested itineraries. There's also another one that unfortunately I don't have here, which is a 24-day, which includes South Georgia Island and the Falklands. We only do about one or two of those a year. The vast majority are these 11 and 13-day itineraries. So we have some offers. We have the More Moments that are going on right now, which are shipboard credits. So make sure that you're talking to your travel advisor about this. You can use the credit for excursions, spa services, for the boutique as well. The only thing you cannot use it for is for the casino. I think that's about it. So virtually everything else can be used for, including the excursions. And then we have our Sail to Remember. And our Sail to Remember is a 15% savings for voyages that depart after October. And then we have a finale sale that you want to be talking to your advisor about. And these are kind of last minute sales that we have for voyages that leave within the next 1 to 3 months. It's a non-refundable. So make sure that you're prepared to go. But there are lower fares, discounted fares. So talk to your travel advisor at cruise.com to make sure that they are actually checking this rate for you if this is what you want to do. With that, I would just say if you've been on Seabourn, thank you for your support. Thank you for your business. And if you haven't, we look forward to seeing you on board soon.
Thank you so much. And I just want to reiterate, if you haven't gone on Seabourn and you're very interested in taking one of their voyages, I would say now is the time to book, especially with those promotions that Jesse just mentioned. You can give us a call at 866, excuse me, 866-468-9508, 866-468-9508. Give us a call, and one of our travel advisors would love to help you out and help book your next Seabourn adventure. I will say those bathroom spaces, that just blew me away. I was like, this looks amazing. Just how much space that you get in your cabin, along with the extra room in your bathroom, really sold me. And I was looking at the Ring of Fire World itinerary, and that was I haven't seen a world cruise itinerary that does that route before, where it's mostly East Asia into Australia. And I really, really found that to be a very interesting itinerary for me, because I'm over here in, Miami, Florida. So that just seems like such a far away destination. So if you're gonna take the trip to go see East Asia and Australia, with the connections in LA and Alaska, I would definitely do it that way with your world cruise. And like you mentioned before, you only do it every other year,
Yeah, so it's every
correct?
other year. Yeah,
Yeah.
26.
Yeah, I was like, wow, that itinerary looks really, really different. I would
It
really
is.
love to take that one.
I think Seabourn is about experiencing new destinations and a new way to
Hmm.
travel. So I think that's something to keep in mind is, if you want to go to these remote destinations where other ships just do not have access to, I mean, we're ideal for that.
Hmm. Well, thank you so much, Jesse, for the presentation. A lot of information, a lot of great, great ideas for everyone to start thinking about and start planning ahead. Cruise.com, like I said, would love to help you plan your next Seaboard adventure. But thank you, everyone, for coming. And we'll see you next time with our next presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Have
Have
a
a good
great
one.
night, and have a great night, everyone.
You too. Bye-bye.